What is going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're finally going to be taking the super cheap Civic build and getting it on the dyno. If you guys haven't been following along, we picked this thing up for 500 bucks and then started to build the cheapest possible turbo kit that I could put together. In the last couple videos we finished off the full 3-inch turbo back exhaust, put new injectors, a new map sensor, and got our 3-port Mac valve wired in for boost control. So this thing should be ready to go, and today we're going to put that to the test on the dyno. So let's get through the intro, load this thing up, and head out to the dyno. We have made it out here to the dyno at Stoll Innovations. He's got this thing strapped down and he's starting to work his magic on the keyboard. We're gonna get this thing dialed in and then we'll start making some runs. All right, guys, we are ready to make our first baseline run. So we've been making a few pulls trying to see what this thing wants fuel-wise, and he's getting this thing dialed right in. We haven't messed with the boost controller yet. We're at about 6 pounds, but pretty soon here, we should be turning this thing up. So he's got this thing really close. We're gonna go ahead and test the boost controller, make sure everything's working properly, and then we're gonna go ahead and throw some duty cycle at it. Yep, it's definitely clicking.
So it is the next day, and as you guys can see, we are sitting in the Honda because we're about to take this thing out on the street and have a little fun and see how it does. We did really good last night on the dyno. I am super happy. We basically doubled the horsepower of this little thing, and it feels so much better, and it is running great. So let's fire this thing up, warm it up, and go take it for a ride. Alright guys, so we're taking this thing out on the road a little bit, and it drove really good on the way home last night. It was driving great. He actually went for a ride with me, and we messed around a little bit. Had the GoPro in here, of course. My fault, forgot to turn it on. So I figured I'd take you guys for a quick ride today, just to show you how it does on the street. I was super happy with how it turned out on the dyno. Knock on wood, we didn't have any issues. Boost controller was working, so I was really happy with that. But we could have made a little bit more power, but it became a point where we could have kept throwing boost at it. But this being a JDM D15B, it's got little baby rods in it, so I didn't want to push it too much further than we did. You got to remember, we doubled the power of this thing. So if it was like our LS, we'd be making 800 horsepower. So that's pretty impressive from an efficiency range, and I'm super happy with it. We can always turn it up later if we decide we want to do something with this car. But as far as being able to just drive it around, daily drive it, and still have some fun, it is damn near perfect. So just cruise it around a little bit and see how it feels. But in third gear, this thing pulls great. But this thing being so light, I'm used to heavy cars, it does not feel like 175 horsepower. And I'm having tons of fun with this little thing, which just goes to show, once again, you can have an absolute blast without a ton of money invested, which was the whole point of this Honda build. Like I said, guys, this thing is so light that it actually rips pretty good for what it has. I'm fairly impressed with this little D15B, honestly. And knock on wood, I'm actually fairly impressed and content with how the wastegate and the blow-off valve are both working for being a cheap eBay Amazon one. The DNA motoring wastegate has been working out perfect with our boost controller. I was worried that that might be an issue on the dyno, but he was able to get it dialed in pretty much spot on. So I'm curious to see if that continues to work as good as it did on the dyno and see if it carries on. Because I hear a lot of bad things about the budget wastegates. So we'll just have to see how it does, but as of right now, it's been doing fantastic. So drive this thing around a little bit more and then we'll go bring it back to the house. It does pretty good, and I'm really happy with how this thing has turned out so far, especially with all of the budget pieces that we have used to build this thing. I mean, the intercooler on it was $100 off of eBay. The turbo was $200 off of maxpeedingrods. The wastegate was $60, blow-off valve was $30. I made all of the piping myself out of what we had laying around out of mild steel tubing. The map sensor was the PLM map sensor for $40. We did have issues with that though, but before I say too much, I want to see what they do about it. And then other than that, just some silicone couplers, a Walbro 450 fuel pump, again, that I had laying on the shelf. And then to top it all off, those super cheap 550cc injectors that we got off of Facebook Marketplace, which, knock on wood, have been working out just fine for us. So really, all in all, when you factor in the $500 car, the most expensive part of this build was the hondata, but you could do it with a chipped ECU. So we did this pretty cheap, and for what we're into it is an absolute riot. This thing is so much fun to drive around for what it is. So I couldn't be happier with it.
So we just got back to the house and I couldn't be happier with this thing. It drives great and it's actually a blast to drive around. As you guys seen last night on the dyno, it made 175 horsepower and still had plenty of fuel system and turbo left to go. The reason I called it quits there was because honestly, I don't really trust the rods in this little JDM D15B, so I decided to call it quits. We can always turn it up a little bit more in the future if we choose to, but for now, we're just gonna leave it right there. So as always, I appreciate you guys for checking out the channel. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you've been enjoying the super cheap Civic build. As always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that bell, and check us out on all of our other social media platforms, Facebook, TikTok, and Bought to Build Official on Instagram, and we will catch you on the next one.